Welcome to Beyond the Beacon with Bishop Kevin Sweeney, a podcast of the Diocese of Paterson, New Jersey. Join us for conversations about our Catholic faith, and together let's strive to live a life of faith, hope, and love. We're so glad you can join us. I'm Jai Agnish, and with me is Bishop Kevin Sweeney. Bishop, how are you today? It's good to be back with you.
Doing all right. Good to be with you, Jay. Doing good,
yes,
thanks.
So, as a diocesan family, we continue to grapple with the sudden loss of one of our beloved priests, Father Rafael Ciro, who took his own life 2 weeks ago. This profound loss has deeply affected his brother priests, his parishioners, especially those at St. Stephen's in Paterson, where he last served, his dear family and friends, and all of us here in the Diocese of Paterson and beyond. Bishop Kevin, you have been a strong leader through this uncharted territory and time of grieving. On day one, you were there praying in the parking lot at St. Stephen's with parishioners, and you've been a presence all along. Where do we go from here?
We stay together in prayer as we've been, and we walk by faith, and as pilgrims of hope. It's not just a phrase. As I turned in my own prayer to those words of the 23rd Psalm, even though I walk in the dark valley, I fear no evil. You're there with your rod and your staff to guide me. And so we've needed the Lord with us as we really have been walking through a dark valley. I don't think anything could prepare someone to, receive the call that I received and that others received on that day, that a call that I had to make to Father Rafael's mom and brother. Since in my previous ministry as a priest and even as a bishop, I had, known those who were impacted by a loved one who died by suicide. But this was, to lose someone so close as bishop, losing a priest, a spiritual son, and someone I had really been privileged to know and as I mentioned, walk the journey with. It's a beautiful picture because, Father Rafael, as we learned, as we knew, I'm not sure he always grasped it as fully himself. What a good and wonderful, dedicated priest he was. And so I'm grateful to the priests of our diocese for their response, especially his close friends, many who were able to go with his body to Colombia for the burial and be with his mom and family. The parishioners of our diocese, people I love, I believe the church is God's family, and we've been through this together now as a diocesan family. It's hard. We're going to have a meeting with our priests in the coming, just in a few days, to have some time together and get some information. And so we're grateful for all the prayers, and we continue to pray together and journey together in faith and in prayer. The people of St. Stephen's, wow, that's just a reminder. One of the great blessings of being a priest and a pastor is to be part of a family of faith in a parish. And I've had the opportunity to spend some time celebrating Mass with the people of St. Stephen's. The wake and the Mass the evening before the funeral at St. Stephen's was a powerful expression of their love for their beloved pastor, and him being buried from the cathedral, and the amount of priests and parishioners of St. Stephen's and those he served in Dover. He was at the cathedral, his first assignment. He also served in St. Nicholas and Our Lady of Fatima, or St. Mary's in Passaic. And again, the days, especially the wake and the funeral, hearing from people coming saying, he did my wedding, he baptized our child, he gave our child First Communion. So we don't maybe always realize as priests the impact that a priest has on the lives of families, and as we shared, he struggled with mental illness and got help, and was fighting a good fight, and but sometimes the illness is stronger than what's here on earth. We know God's love is stronger than all the pain that we go through, but and so we place him in the merciful hands of God now, and trust that he's at peace, and he'll be looking down from us. We trust and believe from the eternal life of heaven.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop. And today, of course, the day that we're recording on is September 11th. It's a very somber day for our nation. I know you had Mass today. Anything you'd like to share about
just the
9/11?
Importance of of prayer. And I mentioned at Mass, again, Pilgrims of Hope, the Jubilee of Hope, to maintain hope when we reflect on the violent acts of 24 years ago, but the heroism, those who lay down their lives to save others, that should fill us with hope and inspire us to love as they love so beautifully. But then yesterday, to hear 2 shootings, one a school in Colorado and the political assassination in Utah, it's not always easy to keep going as Pilgrims of Hope, but that's who we're called to be. And faith, hope, and love, in the end, these 3. And the greatest of these is love. And we were reminded of that 24 years ago. And the importance of remembering an anniversary like this and being able to celebrate Mass together gives us strength and comfort and allows us to keep going and nourished by the Eucharist. And so we got to keep praying and praying for peace.
Okay, thanks. And before we move ahead to our episode,
great topic today with great guests. Yes, looking forward to that.
So maybe a tie-in would be the 2 new saints that we
now Saint Carlo Acutis and Saint Pier Giorgio Frassati. Great day on this past Sunday for the Church. Pope Leo doing the canonizations in Rome. I had a chance to be with our young adult community in St. Paul inside the walls. I'm sure in our parishes, that there was solidarity and prayer and joy to receive the 2 new saints, a young teenager and a young adult. As I've shared, and I've shared in a post that it's great to have these 2 young men, a teenager and a young adult, but there's also young women out there who are on the road to sanctity. We hope one from our own diocese, Blessed Miriam Teresa Demjanovic. And as I've gotten to know Sister Claire Crockett, I try to recommend her video on YouTube, All or Nothing, an inspiring life of faith. So a lot of reasons to be hopeful and to give thanks for those who live exemplary lives of faith. And I think with our guests we'll also talk, they were both at this past Monday in Newark, the Archdiocese of Newark, at the beautiful Sacred Heart Basilica Cathedral for the ordination of a new auxiliary bishop, Pedro Bismarck Chow, originally from Nicaragua and speaks sign language, as I don't, but beautiful moments that we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about that with our guests.
Yeah, I got to know him a little bit when I was working in Newark. Great person. He was the rector at the cathedral there. But okay, great. Well, we're gonna hand it over to Cecile, and she's gonna introduce our guests and our topic for today. So
thanks, Jay. Great.
And we are back. Thank you, Jay. And the Bishop, with, I guess, some of the current events happening today in today's world. Very serious and important stuff that we talk about, and with God's help, we'll get through these moments.
Certainly there'll be plenty about the ceremonies and remembrance of September 11th today. Bishop Bismarck's ordination, I'm sure, was widely covered on social media, but even the passing of Father Rafael, and maybe at the beginning there might have been comments or speculation on social media, but there was also a lot of great tributes to him, and even the Beacon today has the coverage of the funeral in his hometown in Colombia. So there's good and bad in everything, and there's certainly challenges, as we'll hear about today, I think, but also opportunities to share the good news through social media. So we need God's help with inspiration with that as well, and good young active leaders in faith that can be in that space where some of us who are a little more advanced in years are not as comfortable. So
I'm at the cusp.
I think I'm closer. Thank God for Cecile.
No, I think I'm closer to your age than Father Caesar and Sister Caroline. But yes, today on the show, have you heard of the term Catholic influencer? The Catholic Church is meeting this cultural moment in today's world, especially with events like the recent digital Jubilee for digital missionaries and Catholic influencers. Our guests today, they know a little something about what that means, and we will discuss with Father Cesar Jaramillo, pastor of Holy Spirit Parish in Pequannock, who was recently studying in Rome, Italy. And we have Sister Gerline Joseph, a Salesian sister who is Associate Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministry in the Archdiocese of Newark. So, here are our guests. I guess one question is, or maybe you could briefly share your vocation story, because what Bishop said is very true. You are young, and hopefully like a lot of our younger viewers will hear your story and be inspired in the same way. So tell us a little bit about your vocation story.
Sister. Ladies first.
Yes. Sure. Well, thank you so much, Cecile and Bishop and Father Cesar. It's interesting, and today part of our topic will be covering a little bit about social media. And in a way, like part of my vocation story, right before I entered the convent in 2007, I was in a time of my life, before that I was very involved in my community, in my school, in my parish. So I went to school. My college was Kane University. So I grew up here in New Jersey. Okay. And even like before I entered the convent, like I used to love participating in pageants and all that stuff. So I was somewhat well known, and my family background is Haitian, in the Haitian community, via this pageant and TV station that I used to be involved in.
TV station?
Yes, for this pageant. And in a way, like I got to a point where I guess like I was growing in my relationship with God, and I kind of wanted to like leave the world in a little bit. But then it's like, okay, you're thinking that, okay, you're entering the convent and then you're detaching yourself from the world, but really it's like you're in the world, but you're not of it kind of thing, So the things that I thought that I will never get a chance to do, it's like, oh, now God is asking me to use those gifts to do them. And I remember even during the beginning, in the beginning time, with Facebook, with MySpace and all these things, So you kind of like left these things, but now there's other social media that came up, in modern terms, Instagram and TikTok and all those things. But part of my story, really, it started in youth group. Another young person invited me to go to youth group, and really I started going to youth group because I said, hey, it's something to do on a Sunday afternoon. But from there, that's how God really called me. And in youth group, I learned to pray the rosary, my devotion to Mary. I learned to adore Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament, devotion to Eucharistic adoration. And it was really the parish priest, the pastor at that time, Monsignor Bo, he really instilled in us a great devotion to Our Lady and Jesus. And the interesting thing is, he used to take us to retreat where I work now in the Archdiocese of Newark, because the home parish I used to go to is Our Lady Up of Christians in East Orange, because they have a Haitian community there. So we used to go to retreat every year. And now I said, wow, God, you have a sense of humor, So yes. I get to minister in the place that really kind of like set the fire for my discernment journey in my vocation story. So I was a normal kid, like everybody else, but although I enjoy participating in all these different events socially, but my faith was always important to me. So like going to church was important, and that kind of formed as a member of the youth group. Before that, I used to go to church because your parents told you to go to church. But then after, I started going to church in high school and in college because I wanted to go to church.
Did you say Kane University?
So I went to Kane University.
Yeah. What did you study?
My study was actually international business.
Wow.
So
you can use that as well to help your congregation, sure, right?
So the convent was not part of my plan, but then God had a different plan. And so I entered right after college.
Great.
So back in 2007.
Great. Father Cesar.
I would say the gospel is pretty international business. So
that's right.
For sure.
I'm one of three. My background is Colombian. I grew up in Clifton, but our home parish was St. Anthony's in Passaic, where Cecile also grew up.
And
very
just
active.
before so we don't forget, the Jubilee of Young Adults will be at St. Anthony's, right?
Correct.
In October.
Correct.
Go ahead, Father Cesar.
So pretty active in the parish. I worked at the parish office for quite a few years. Then I entered into college. I went to Seton Hall University. I was a nursing major. And it wasn't after my junior year that a bit of an existential crisis, I kind of looking into the future, I said, you know, Lord, I don't think I'll be happy as a nurse the rest of my life. And so that brought about very serious questions. And I developed a habit of going to daily Mass and spending more time in the Blessed Sacrament. I talked to some priests that were close to my family. And, you know, the Lord put it in my heart that I needed to discern. And I qualify that statement because I never felt like I am going to be a priest. My first instinct was God is calling me to discern whether this is what He's calling me to do. My parents weren't too happy when I worded it that way. Particularly my father, he took it very hard. But because I was at Seton Hall University, a Catholic university, when I spoke to Bishop Saratelli at the time, he said, you know, why don't you stay at Seton Hall and finish your undergrad at St. Andrew's College Seminary? That was, of course, preceded by, I would say, the pivotal moment of my vocation story, which took place in the Holy Land. Mom and I went on a pilgrimage with our parish and our pastor, and it was out on the Sea of Galilee where I was asking the Lord to speak to me. And
how old were you then?
I was 21.
Okay.
And the song Pescador de Hombres came on, and it was one of those moments where you singularly felt the presence of the Holy Spirit. And I said, all right, I hear you loud and clear. I'll give this a chance.
Close to me, you'll find other seas, right?
Correct,
Right.
correct. And that was really the beginning of it all. And, you know, been ordained 8 years, extremely happy and grateful to God every day.
And now, as a pastor of a parish, Holy Spirit in Pequannock since July, and we were together on Saturday because the parish just celebrated its 75th anniversary and rededicated their remodeled church. The previous pastor, Father Prisk, had worked with a long time to raise funds, and as I said on Saturday, you were jumped into the deep end of the pool as a pastor, right? Because your first masses there would have been in the school gym, right? Yeah. But on time, the project was done and beautifully done, so in our conversations over the years, you've the call within the call, as Mother Teresa would say, or I think for diocesan priests, the thought of serving as a pastor of a parish, how's that been for your first few months?
It's been amazing. I think it's the best thing that could happen to a priest. I'm thankful to the Lord each day.
It's a great blessing. As I said, Father Rafael, my own experience, and I think others who have served as pastors, just to get to know families and to know a parish family, and a lot of responsibility, a lot of work as well. Yes. But so as we talk about as both of you were sharing, I wonder if you, and we didn't discuss this beforehand, but and Cecile can answer as well. Do you remember when you got your first cell phone, and do you remember when you got your first smartphone? Maybe you guys, it was the same. Maybe you got a smartphone to start.
Does the beeper count?
Does Father Cesar remember beepers?
Do you remember beepers?
I do. I never used one, but
I did have a beeper in middle school.
Wow.
That was
middle school.
In middle school, that was 97, 98. And then we used to play around, like you'll send messages.
Oh, right.
But then
like
depending on how you put,
L.
like you put the hello, depending on how the numbers
this
you
with
put.
The beeper?
Yeah, with the beeper. You flip it upside down, then you could read the message.
0773H.
Oh.
Yeah. Hello upside down.
Yeah. So I had a beeper in middle school, and then my first cell phone, like, maybe in college, but it was like the flip phones, and then when you text, you have to, like, if I'm doing, like, for the number one, you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I had a Nokia. I was ordained in 1997 and got my first cell phone not right away, maybe 98 or 99, and then when I became vocation director, I got a BlackBerry. And I thought this was amazing, and I thought, and I remember resisting an iPhone. Well, that changed pretty quickly. Do you remember?
I was a freshman in high school. My first phone was a Motorola Razr. It was the hit because it was so thin. And then I upgraded to the BlackBerry, and we thought that was the best thing next to sliced bread.
Right.
And then I gave in to the Apple.
iPhone. Right. Yourself, do you remember?
2000, and I have the same phone number for the past 25 years.
Wow, I have
Yes.
my first cell phone number is still my personal cell phone number.
It was
So, I know Cecile has some questions, but going maybe from there to, has social media helped play any role in your own discernment, vocation? I know it does now in ministry. Father Cesar, you were in Rome at a good time last spring, and so maybe just a few words about as you entered seminary, discernment. Where was social media, and how has it developed in your own even personal ministry and maybe work of evangelization?
Well, in my seminary years, I remember two figures that stood out and still do, and we've spoken about this. Bishop Robert Barron, who at that time was Father Robert Barron,
right.
and Father Mike Schmitz.
Right.
And I remember listening to, at the time, Father Robert Barron, and I said, my goodness, this guy's brilliant, and the way he's engaging young people, not kind of watering down doctrine, but engaging it in such a way that it becomes interesting and dynamic. And I really, till this day, I admire him. I call myself a huge Barronite. And then Father Mike Schmitz, with his energy and just like the dynamism behind every one of his very brief homilies, but very powerful homilies. And then
His Sunday homilies aren't as brief.
right,
I love them.
Right.
But,
Yeah. And then fast forward to my time in Rome. So I was hesitant to get on Instagram. My whole thing was Facebook. I have to attribute Instagram to my two sisters because they said, well, all the young people on Instagram. If you just keep Facebook, you're not going to reach the kind of the niche that you want to go for. And so I opened Instagram, and there was all these wonderful priests on Instagram. And they said, people need to see that priests are people too. Like, they're normal and they have a family, and yes, they pray, but then they go and they do sports, or they go out with their friends, and so I was like, all right, that's a good kind of reasoning. And when I started, it was really more personal. Then I kind of started sprinkling with some stuff about ministry, and now I just try to convey to the best of my abilities the beauty of the priesthood.
And how many followers?
12,000. So in the vast sea of influencers, I am like this little drop. But I say, even if someone reads or hears something that they needed to hear that day, it's worth it. Yeah.
Sister Gurley?
In the beginning of my vocation discernment, and now, at that point, I didn't know the term, like all the terminology that we're using now, but now I know what that is, discernment. But in my beginning, that was before, I guess, social media. Actually, I remember going to Yahoo and putting in the sisters, and there was a lot of printouts. And I remember I got a book, a Vision magazine book, actually from Steubenville. At Franciscan
with
University.
all the different communities?
With all the different
Yes,
communities. Yes. So I took that book home and I was flipping through it. I know I look young, but I'm a little bit on the older side. So, and then there was an ad for the Salesian Sisters, and I said, oh, this is what I'm doing now.
Tear out postcard.
Yeah.
Right, that you could
Because it listed summer camp, youth group. And in a way, though, there was one sister assigned at the office where I work now, at the youth office, Sister Loretta. And I said, oh, this is the same outfit Sister, I didn't know it was called a habit, so now I know. This is the same outfit Sister Loretta is wearing. And then, they do youth events and stuff. And now at that time I was helping with the youth group in my church. I said, I could do this for the rest of my life. But really that conclusion came from a thought, like my entering my senior year, at the end of my junior year, entering my senior year in college. And I said, wow, this is my last year. What do I really want to do with the rest of my life? I don't know where the question came from, but it just kind of provoked me to like think about it. So then I started thinking, and I thought about being a sister before, like when I used to go to those youth retreats, but then I was like, nah, this is not for me. But then I left it there, and then the thought started coming back again. So at that time, it was just Yahoo. I went to Yahoo and search, and then I sent an email thinking that the sisters are not going to reply back to me, because I have to say, as a teenager, I used to love doing those sweepstakes for all those like teens, like the 17 magazine and stuff like that. So then, and you never win. So I'm thinking, okay, I got this magazine from Ohio. I'm in New Jersey. I'm sending them an email. They're not going to respond back to me, but they did. So that was before, but now, I mean, we did have like the how social media was then. It was more like personal. You collect your music, your this and that. But now it's like more really branching out. So it's different, but in a way it's beautiful. Like everything, there's good to it and there's bad to it. But at least like the presence that I try to be with the sisters is hopefully for the good.
We had Sister Teresa is here with us, and the Salesians hosted the young religious, and I was at a table, and it came up with a number of different, I think it was young women that were entering a few different communities that were there. And how did you find out? Oh, I saw them online. Oh, I saw them online. I mean, vocation work now is really moved online.
It's really been beautiful in a way, especially with the Salesian Sisters account page. And we really do try to pray about it and really be intentional in what we do post. But in the past, I want to say 2-3 years, many of the young women who are entering, they said, oh, I had this question about if I really, like, in terms of like their choices, should I go with this order or that order? And then something was posted on the Salesian Sisters page. It's like, and that helped me to make my decision. And I said, wow, I guess God really used it. Like he used whatever means, when he calls, whatever it is that could really talk to us, he uses that. So I'm glad that he's using that not only for young women to help them in their discernment process, but also for other young people, for, if they're having a bad day and they see the sisters doing something and it brings like a little joy to their day. So that's beautiful how it's really a means of evangelization.
Have you started using it at the parish?
We have.
Yeah. And I presume Father Prisk would have had some things there already?
Yes, yes.
And the school, right? You have a parish school, so...
it's a great outlet to kind of get all our events out and invite people to join us for different things. I think it's a great outlet.
Sister Gurleen, you actually went viral of you doing a 3-point shot.
I didn't see that. I have to...
That's probably like that was probably a couple years ago, and that's when I really saw this Eye of the Salesian.
Where was that?
I think it was posted in the Salesian Sisters. So I was in a school in Ohio, and we, as a Salesian sister, we like to be with the young people. And I don't remember what was happening. And then they were having some kind of competition. I said, oh, I'll play. And, I did not play basketball, but I played a lot of basketball with the sisters in the convent because we like to be competitive. And then, so I've learned a few tricks here and there. So then they were playing, and they said, hey, can I take a shot? And then I took, and then I made it on the first. So all the students were like, yay!
It had like 100,000 views.
Wow.
So I mean, to me, that's a big deal.
That's awesome.
Yes. So, well, Father Cesar, I know. So, and this is for all of us, I guess. Good Bishop, you actually are an influencer yourself because you do have a social media
Thanks to Cecile.
presence. But social media played a very significant role in the coverage about the death of Pope Francis, the conclave, and then Pope Leo's election. And so many people became fascinated with the Catholic Church, and secular media was covering it. This was a huge news story. We got an American Pope, which Monsignor Kupke correctly predicted.
Podcast,
but here you two shared some very interesting perspectives. I mean, Father Cesar, you were there firsthand. And just describe that time covering, documenting that time on your social media. I mean, because I know we shared your posts. We felt here in the Diocese of Paterson, we were in Rome because we had one of our own. And
he was on TV when the white smoke came out, right?
Right.
So just describe documenting that time.
Yeah, I learned you got to be careful what you wish for, because I remember coming home that Christmas, and I was speaking to my parents, and I said, they said, are you excited to be coming back next year? And I said, yeah, I can't wait to be back home. And then Mom says, well, is there anything that you kind of want to do before you come? And I said, well, it's not really up to me. I said, but this is my second time in Rome. And I said, and I have yet to witness a papal funeral or a conclave.
Oh, wow.
So when this all happened, she says, careful what you wish for, But it was probably the most, I would say, unfiltered, in the sense that there was really no prepping for the videos that I did. I was just there. So people are like, wow, Father, you are really excited. That was all that was just the moment. The energy in the square was amazing, both when he died, we all gathered for prayer. We started the rosaries very shortly after the announcement was made that Pope Francis had passed away. And there was such a huge sense of reverence, but prayer, it was tangible. And I hadn't witnessed anything like it within the context of like someone passing away. And this is our spiritual father, right? I mean, this is the Pope. So it's something that I would say branded me in a very positive sense. It was really to see the global church come together to pray for a late pontiff. It was just beautiful to be there and to be able to say that I was there. And then, of course, the days leading up to the conclave and all the excitement behind it, and then being there for the white smoke, it was an eruption of like the best sentiments human beings have as persons. There was joy, people were crying, people were screaming, but I don't want to get too theological, but I was kind of like sharing that with my spiritual director, and he actually gave me this beautiful insight, because that, before the white smoke came out, everyone was kind of saying, is it going to be today?
Right.
And we see the white smoke, and I was one of the ones jumping up and down. People were on their knees, joyfully crying. But then it's like a good hour before,
Yeah, it took a while.
the white smoke, and then he comes out. And there were these huge jumbotrons lining up Via della Conciliazione, which is that main street that leads to St. Peter's Square. And what they were capturing were people from different parts of the city all flocking to this main street. But it was crazy, because if you looked at it, it almost looked illogical. Like, people were running to get to as close as they could to the square, but they had no idea who had been elected Pope. They just knew it was the Pope, a Pope had been elected. And then, again, sharing it with my spiritual director, he said, that's probably what it felt like the morning of the resurrection.
Oh, wow.
Right? Mary goes back and says he's not there.
Right.
And, she doesn't say, I know where he is, right? But, we hear Peter and John rush out.
Right.
And it was just so powerful, like to say, in a way, I got to experience, it was a visceral joy. I've never felt anything like it. To what the apostles must have felt, right? The morning of the resurrection. But here we were, 1.3 billion Catholics around the world, all glued to their TVs. And I turned around to a brother priest who was with me, and I said, some people say the church is irrelevant. I said, but I can't think of any other institution that has the entire world glued to their TVs for 3 days continuously.
Catholic or not.
Right.
Exactly. And then to hear that after he was elected, or during that whole process, I believe the #1 Google search for a few days was how to become Catholic.
Really?
Because of the interest that sparked around the conclave and around the election of Pope Francis. So I'm so glad to be home, but I am so blessed to have been there for that.
Yeah. I think too, the positive aspect of media also kind of help promote that. Because before, those used to happen that people used to know, maybe later on, because now, positive or not, people were watching the conclave movie. I know there's some negative.
Oh, right. There's some
negative things to that
one.
too. But at least that sparked an interest. Maybe that's how God was using them to get to the
timing
real
was
truth.
interesting when you
To
think
the
about it,
real
yeah,
truth.
right.
But then, because they have access to so much, because then they're able to maybe there is some truth. Maybe there. So then that's kind of like that little doorway is leading them to something greater that they don't know has existed, or that does exist. So that's the beauty of the digital media helping in a positive way.
the Holy Spirit really can, as we look back way before the internet and electronics, St. Augustine, he somehow felt take and read, right? The Holy Spirit can work through the smallest opening in the human heart, right? And now, sometimes that opening leads somebody to go online, and that's amazing that how many were Googling how to become Catholic.
Number one search,
right. Makes me think also, were you at the National Eucharistic Congress? Right. The big events, World Youth Day, an opportunity for a lot to be shared on social media, and we're going to have an opportunity. Are you planning to be at NCYC?
Yes.
And the excitement that Pope Leo is going to join virtually, the NCYC, National Catholic Youth Conference, right?
Yeah.
Is it every 2 years? It's in Indianapolis, right? And then on the West Coast, the alternate years, right. So that'll be an opportunity for us to invite some young people, right, to come together as a national church, and the Holy Father is going to be visiting virtually. So,
we're looking forward to this excitement time.
And some people have talked about Pope Leo as the first missionary pope, American pope, but that he does his own. He's got his own smartphone and does responds to his own emails and texts and Wordle, I guess, right? And
he was on Facebook.
Is that right?
Yeah, he had a Facebook. I don't think he's used there. Maybe he's not allowed to anymore. But he was on Facebook.
I guess another relevant topic is the canonization of Carlo Acutis, who is considered the
now being referred to as God's influencer.
Right, that's God's influencer. And I know, Bishop, you've read so much on him, but what does that mean to canonize, that the church has canonized this young saint? And because I guess what he created was a website.
Eucharistic Miracles.
Right, what does that mean for the church to see now that we have an actual saint that was using digital media?
I've heard that he might, I don't think it's been official yet, that he's being named patron saint of the internet, right? So
that'd be great.
That'll be a good one.
But certainly a good example for our young people, right?
Yeah. And I think it's a good time too, because lately you hear a lot of statistics on how the young people are leaving the church, and not just like in the Catholic Church, like the young people are leaving faith in general. But also, although those statistics are being said, but you also hear how a lot of young people are seeking and searching for truth, and how they're turning the other way, and a lot of them are converting. Or
Bishop Barron had on his podcast this past Monday a conversation about the increase in statistics in the United States and at least Western Europe, that the large number of people entering the church and young people entering the church over the last few years, especially receiving the sacraments at Easter.
So it's beautiful that these two young saints, great examples, and they could see somebody, especially for Carlos, because it was more recent. It's like, if he could do it, I could do it too. So hopefully that will, and I think it will, continue to increase the desire for the young people to be, to follow Jesus Christ, really, simply putting it. So.
In your own ministry with our young people, certainly as we're talking about, there's opportunities to connect and share content and touch someone's heart and have them consider maybe how God is calling them. But there are challenges as well. What do you see in terms of our young people and screen time and the good and bad of their experience with social media and online?
It's a loaded question, Bishop, but a very relevant one. But I would say, to answer that question, I would preface with, I believe the Lord sends us the saints we need at the time when we need them, right? And so the fact that you have these two young men who were in love with the Lord and were trying to evangelize, each in their own ways, also speaks to us, I would say, especially those who, and we all run the risk of falling prey to this nostalgia that everything was better in the past, and look where the youth are today and what kind of future. And I don't think as Christians, certainly not as Catholics, we should go down that route, because you have someone like Carlo Acutis who, that beautiful quote of his, we're all born originals, but most of us die photocopies. Right. And I think that links perfectly with the pros and the cons of social media. So we have a lot of our young people who are now glued to their phones, right? In an unhealthy way, right? But I think it's a matter of cultivating the importance of like a face-to-face conversation, or highlighting the fact that as human beings we're deeply relational. So it shouldn't just be, we shouldn't be glued to a phone screen 24/7. But also, I think it speaks to the fact that in social media, there is, especially amongst our young people, certainly the tendency to feel like they need to live up to a certain standard, whether that is aesthetics, whether it's what they're wearing, what they look like, where they're going. And so it could be a very deceiving world, because as someone once mentioned, nobody posts anything sad on social media. You only put your best foot forward, right? Because you only want to share that which is good. So I think, especially for our young people who perhaps have the tendency to either compare themselves to others or all these great influencers, celebrities, to know that, you know, each of them is also battling their own struggles, silently perhaps, but it's not everything that social media sometimes makes it out to be. Now, on the other side of that coin, there's a lot of good things on there, right? So, you know, perhaps you're having a bad day and you're scrolling through something and you come across one of these Catholic social media accounts with a quote that you needed to hear, and that's how the Lord is speaking to you at that moment. So there's all these, I think Bishop Aaron would call them seeds of the Word that have made it to the digital continent.
And I don't know if it's more adults and young adults, whether it's reaching youth yet, although they have things for children and families, the Hallow app. I mean, I'm just, the good stuff that, and you say, as you say, Father Cesar, we think all, you know, the past was much better, and now, well, there's a lot of activity on the Hallow app, and also think of the Jubilee for youth and young adults in Rome. They were expecting 500,000, they had 1 million, right? Crazy. I mean, so, how about your own experience, Sister, in terms of ministry and in your interactions with young people, teenagers, how they're impacted by or struggle with or benefit from social media?
I mean, there is a concern. I guess like every good thing, there's positive and negative to it. There is a concern of like addiction. You know, they could be addicted to it. Where, you know, they spend, you know, they say, oh, I'm going to spend, they sit here, they think they're thinking they're spending 20 minutes, and next thing you know, it's 3 hours, and not just for the young people, also for the adults too, anybody who uses social media. But that's where, again, learning skills, balance of like self control, discipline could help in those things. So those are like the negative aspect, and sometimes too, it could scroll you into the next thing, and I guess for us, and that's what, because I mean, we can't, you know, when you know the songs say you can't go over it, can't go under it, got to go through it, you know, like with that camp song, we can't escape it. We can't say, oh, we're not gonna, you know, the kids or adults are being addicted to this, but then this is their reality in a way, like in a Salesian term, like this is their playground, you know, like Don Bosco, during his time, the printing press was the thing of the day, and he used that to evangelize. And for us, like this is our modern playground, our modern printing press. We have to use that to evangelize. This is where they are. We can't escape it, but we could even use that to counter, you know, like. And sometimes even myself, when I'm scrolling, sometimes I see little clips and videos that said, hey, you know, if you've been in here for too long, maybe it's time to, you know, like you see people like doing these little things. So maybe, you know, just like doing a little clip to help with that. But hopefully, too, what we're sharing with them, too, is more positive and negative than negative. So, and even, you know, when Pope Leo had the recent Jubilee for the Catholic influencers, you know, when he said, I like the line of the idea of like not just creating content, but like creating opportunities for encounter. Right. So hopefully, like, yes, it can be a negative space because they get addicted, they spend a lot of time, but hopefully, in some of the time that they spend, that they are encountering, and hopefully the person that they're encountering is a person of Jesus by the little things, you know, that we say or we do, or even if it's not directly, just like the joy, the characteristic of the Lord, you know, joy, love, peace, whatever it is that we're we're helping them to live out.
And Cecile, your work on the diocesan social media, along with Jay, who's with us, and we do get a lot of engagement. I mean, right? People are respond to. I mean, I'm not looking at it as much, but when I go to visit parishes, they say, "Oh, thank you for your Instagram," or for what. That's. I
mean, for me to hear that, I wouldn't hear comments like that. But yes, we do get a lot of reactions and comments often, and the thing with social media is a lot of times people will say things that are more on the meaner side.
Right,
it's the streets of social media, and you get both sides. But I think that's just a reality of social media. You're going to get the negative. You're going to get the positive. But we as a church need to be on social media, and I think like you said, Pope Leo wants us to have encounters, and I guess he has a fear with technology taking over. But yes, we still have that human aspect that we had to put into social media, and like you said, you get a lot of comments, and I think what makes your account so, I guess, popular or whatever is that there is a heart and to it that people connect with. So
we try to make it personal.
Right? Yes, that's the word I was looking for too. Like you have to make it personal.
And personal, and kind of like how you say too, so they know, like, hey, we're normal people.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, your selfies still.
And if you're curious about this, here it is.
Exactly.
Like it could be the simplest thing as, why do you wear white and why do you wear gray? Here's the answer. Just like really a tool of learning and building relationships, really a tool of building, I guess, digital relationships. But then the funny thing is, I don't know if that ever happened to you. So at the Eucharistic Congress, so there were, as the priests were walking in, it's like, oh, I know this person. Where do I know him from? Where do I know him from? I was like, oh, I follow him on Instagram.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
Then you feel like you have a connection with the person. So.
And maybe those who work in youth ministry who might, we had something at St. Paul's Inside the Walls last night about different uses of AI. I mean, I'm amazed at that as a tool. But youth ministers, priests working in youth ministers, or religious, from your own experience, if someone is maybe not as adept maybe as each of you are in terms of being just familiar with posting and seeing the value of it, would you have some advice for youth ministers or even parents in terms of working with their children and trying to know what they're looking at when they're online? How about that for youth ministry or parents? Or
I guess in general, for especially when the thing is new, again, the same idea. For everything that's out there, there's the positives of it, there's the negative of it. And then especially when it's new, you have to be careful because it's still developing, you're still learning, you're not really sure. But you see the potential. You can't really run away from it because this is where society is going. So you have to face it, can't go over it, can't go under it, got to go through it. You got to face it and learn about it and see how, if this is where society is going, how can I use it positively and how could I be, careful and be reserved. So in terms of AI, there are a lot of positive aspects of it, but at the same time too, there's a lot of negative aspects of it. In terms of the positive aspects, especially nowadays, you're searching something, it kind of like narrow things down for you when you're doing a search, kind of like generates like answers for you. Especially with language, in terms of language, we had a meeting recently with 13 different countries present this summer, and we had Linguify, I think the app was. So the speaker is speaking in English, and then the person you choose, do you want it to translate in Spanish, in French, in Italian, whatever, simultaneously it's translating. So those are like the positive aspects of like artificial intelligence, or even, you're writing something and you just need a little guide where to go, and then you could ask, you interact with the application. So those are positive, but at the same time you have to be careful. It's collecting information. It's you don't know where those information is being stored, what it will do in the future. Like you don't know. So you just have to be reserved and not just like put yourself out there, but learn more about it, because you can't escape it. This is where society is moving. You go to a restaurant, then the little robot comes and serve you. You know, all of these things.
I haven't had that one
At Six Flags, we were at Six Flags. You walk in and like the shop, there's nobody working inside. You know.
Oh, right. It's like mobile order when you buy souvenirs.
You go in and your card is scanned, and you know. So this is where the world is moving. You can't escape it. So, but you do have to learn more and inform yourself, and see where you could be careful, and try to use it for the positive, and know that there could be some dangers to it too, like everything else.
I haven't tried it myself, but I've heard from some priest friends, I don't know, Father Cesar, some have told me that ChatGPT can write a decent homily.
I hope not.
If you give it prompts,
I hope not.
But, you know, we've had these different conversations, you know, people will say, but still it doesn't have that heart aspect to it.
Right.
But then, like for me, sometimes if I'm looking for ideas, but then you put the heart aspect to it. You know, you just kind of get a start. But again, it depends on the person. Some people are still hardcore. It does sometimes, like using artificial intelligence things. It does make things more. I don't want to say practical, like
Efficient.
Right. More efficient.
Right,
you know, you spend less time. But hey, I mean, you can never replace a human person, but sometimes it can be efficient.
A tool to help,
So,
right.
Learning to have the balance.
Father Cesar, any advice for those in youth ministry or
I
parents?
think whether you're a youth minister or parent, I like to apply this across the board. Know what you don't know and surround yourself with people that do. You know, it's hard to demonize something when we don't understand it, or when there's a sense of frustration about, you know, how am I going to learn this? I wasn't brought up in this age. I had it with my parents. I mean, they both had to learn how to text because that was the most efficient way to communicate with their children. And so they learned how to text. It wasn't easy. My dad only came around about 3 years ago, but it happened. And so, again, just be open to it. Like Sister said, of course there are there's a good side and a bad side. But if our children are on it, if our young people are on it, we need to be where they are. And that's why I love the term the digital continent.
Right.
Because that's where everyone is. And if this is where they're spending most of the time, well then let's make sure as a church that they're encountering
we have
content.
digital missionaries and digital pastoral ministers, right?
Yeah, content that will make them ask themselves the big questions, or perhaps propitiate an encounter with our Lord.
And offer accompaniment as well.
Right.
Right.
I was talking to, he's a huge influencer in Mexico. I think he has like over 1 million followers, a priest. And we were having, this was back in Rome, but we were having lunch one day, and he said, you know, the future Pope is on social media right now. And that kind of like, you know, struck a chord. Like, yeah, there's a very high likelihood that will actually be the case, that, you know, our Pope in 20, 30 years would have had an Instagram account and would have had a Facebook account.
Was it Pope Benedict, I think, started the first Twitter account, right?
Right. I still remember him. You know, they gave him that iPad, and all he did was like, he tapped the iPad,
the first tweet,
but boom, all of a sudden,
tweet,
the Pope is on Twitter.
Yeah, and even Pope Francis, like, I remember I was among the first 1 million followers. So when because I was waiting, and even when he became Pope Leo, I meant to say, even when he first became Pope, I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to have an Instagram account. So I'm waiting. And then a couple weeks, you know, maybe less than a month later, he started an account. And then within like less than 24 hours, and he had like 10 million followers. And I was among the first 1 million.
And Pope Francis did use it as well, right? I mean,
So
I think we want to be wrapping up, right? We could go on. We'll have to come back and continue the conversation.
I mean, and also too, we keep saying youth, but adults are on social media, and I think you know, something we need to remind everyone that something me and Jay will hopefully get going is make sure every parish in our diocese is on social media in some way, and so lots to look forward to. You know, with this?
teamwork, right?
Yeah.
Father
Yes.
Cesar and Cecile were part of that
Oh,
first
right,
social
that is-
media
wow,
team that
yes.
helped me to get started when I arrived, and thank God for that. So
Yeah,
yes, we don't have to do it ourselves, right? We can find
Yeah.
others
Right.
to.
Right.
Yeah.
That is important to know, and something, just thank you for your trust in me.
You're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks. But, thanks for your, the trust you have in me to help you, assist you in your Instagram. I never thought when I started my career that's what I would be doing, but I absolutely love it. I love
great.
being
That's
able
great.
to connect to people through social media. So
Yeah. It's making connections. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, anything else, Bishop?
I think we're good.
Okay, we're good. All right. So, thank you for joining us. Please subscribe, comment, and leave a positive rating. Get to know us better by, guess what? Following Bishop
There we
Kevin's
go.
Instagram and our Beyond the Beacon. Also, Father Caesar at Father Caesar Jaramillo is your Instagram, and then Salesian Sisters would be yours.
At
So-
Salesian Sisters.
Yes, and you can see them both in your spare time or whenever you use social media. So make sure you follow all of us, all of our accounts on social media. Read the Bishop's weekly column on beaconnj.org. Get in touch with us if you have a question for the Bishop. And discover our other podcasts, Coffee with Cupcake and the Paul Street Journal. See you next time.
And we've been posting 2 weeks from today the New Jersey
yes. The-
Mass Rally and March for Life.
yeah,
So,
so I'll be
please
there.
consider joining us. Yes. Thank you, Cecile. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sister
Thank you,
Gurley, and thanks,
Bishop.
Father
Thank you,
Caesar.
Bishop.
Father
Thanks,
Caesar. Thank you,
Cecile.
Cecile.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
God
you.
bless.